Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 318 of our trip around the United States. Heading out to the coast with Flip and Truax Outdoors to do the clamming and crabbing like we did, gave us an opportunity to knock out several of those pages that we had along our route leaving Oregon. That gave us a little bit more time to relax on our last day here before heading up to Washington. We're kicking off today here in McMinnville to take care of one page that we had a gap in before we head into Portland to spend the rest of our day. We have a huge list of traditionals with a bunch of favorite points and virtuals, both new and old, spread across the city. I can tell you right now, we're not going to have the time today to finish the whole list, but we're going to take on as much of it as we can. First thing, we're going to get our walk in here, get Aichan nice and tired before we start into some of the park and grabs in Portland. Then, tomorrow, we're going to be heading up into Washington. Can't wait to see what today has in store, and I can't wait to see what surprises Portland brings us in the geocaching trails. Come on, let's go.
Passing under an arch dedicated to the Boy Scouts of America, we begin our morning with a walk out on the Evergreen Nature Trail. This is a beautiful little spot of greenery tucked into the middle of an urban area. Walking through the fields of grass behind the screen of trees, it's easy to tune out the white noise of the traffic far beyond. Let's enjoy this calm moment of quiet together before we get ready to get wacky, wavy, and wild, setting out to find adventure today. Clear the runway because our first landing zone is none other than the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum. Located right across the highway from the former headquarters of Evergreen International Aviation and the McMinnville Municipal Airport, this non-profit museum first opened its hangar bay doors to the public in 1991 with a small collection of vintage aircraft in a hangar at the company headquarters. This small museum first began as a vision by Michael King Smith, a former captain in the U.S. Air Force and the son of Evergreen International Aviation's founder, Delford Smith. It would not stay small for long, however. When the Walt Disney Company announced it would close the Long Beach exhibit of the Spruce Goose, the Evergreen Museum won the bid to build a museum around the aircraft and feature it as a central exhibit. It would take nearly 6 months between the disassembly of the aircraft and the parts being shipped and trucked to arrive at the Evergreen International Aviation headquarters. After 8 years of reassembly and detailed restoration, the museum was finally ready to open its doors officially on June 6th of 2001. During this period, the facility went through several name changes, from the Evergreen Museum to the Evergreen AirVenture Museum, then to the Captain Michael King Smith Evergreen Aviation Educational Center following his death in an automobile accident in March of 1995. There are a number of aircraft to be discovered both inside and outside the museum buildings, including the Beechcraft Model 17, the Curtiss Robin, a Douglas C-47, the Hughes H-4 Hercules, the Lockheed SR-71 Alpha Blackbird, and a Titan IV, just to name a few of what you can see and explore here. And to sweeten the deal, you can even find a geocache hidden in the landing gear of one of these aircraft. Work began on the Space Museum building in September of 2006 with the intent of making it a twin to the Aviation Museum. The grand opening event for the new addition was hosted on June 6th of 2008, 7 years to the day after the Aviation Museum opened its doors to the public. Between the aircraft on display and the caches to be found here, there's a ton of fun to be had before you ever step foot into either one of these buildings. Just beyond the museum, we come into McMinnville, the county seat and most populated city in Yamhill County, with about 35,000 people living here. Founded on August 4th of 1810, the city is named for Joseph McMinn, a veteran of the American Revolution who served as the 4th governor of Tennessee from 1815 to 1821. Our goal in the city was to pursue a virtual named Strolling Max Bronze Art, which was released with the first wave of new virtuals in 2017. In total, there are 15 stages for this virtual, which would immediately make me discount it except for a few very important factors. First, I love to seek out statues in any city I go to, so that already made it appealing for me. Second, each stage is marked with a waypoint, making it very easy to figure out where you're going. And, most importantly, you only have to visit any 4 of the 15 stages to complete the listing. Of course, I still ended up visiting each of the 15 stages as they brought me to some of the most unique places around McMinnville. Perusing the titles of the books leading up to the entryway of the library, we work out the coordinates for Stage 2 located inside, only to discover that the library is closed today due to a holiday. Oh well, still a great place to explore before we head on to our next destination in Forest Grove. Located about 25 miles north of McMinnville and 25 miles west of Portland, this small farm town with a population of about 21,000 people was the first city established in Washington County. Similarly to McMinnville, how we use the stages of the virtual to explore the city via the statues it brought us to, here in Forest Grove, we explore the city via the stages of an adventure lab that bring us to murals spread around the town. Each of these murals tell their own story about the culture, art, and history to be found in the city, but some of them are significantly newer than others. Some of those most recent additions were added in the fall of 2022 in celebration of the city's 150th birthday. As part of the celebration, 4 new murals went up in the downtown area, in time to be displayed to the public for the 32nd annual Forest Grove Sidewalk Chalk Festival, held in September of each year. While the pieces of art created during that event are certainly quite a bit more transient, they are by no means any less awe-inspiring. Each participating artist is given a reserved square of downtown sidewalk and 24 pieces of quality chalk to work with. While these artists, young and old, skilled and unskilled, spend their day creating masterpieces on one of the hundreds of squares available, entertainers can be found performing throughout the downtown corridor. This is definitely a city to visit, especially in September, if you have a love for the arts. East out of Forest Grove, heading into Portland, we stop off for a walk in the Orenco Woods Nature Park. The history of this beautiful park is closely related to the McDonald House, which was built here in 1910. No, not that McDonald. This house was built for President Malcolm McDonald of the Oregon Nursery Company, which is where Orenco takes its name from. McDonald lived in the house with his wife Alana May and his daughter Florence from 1910 through 1929. During that time, the Oregon Nursery Company both rose and fell, with the town of Orenco growing up around the property. The land, always closely tied to the community, became available for public use after its purchase in 2011. While our primary focus today was on the virtuals and some of the adventure labs, that didn't stop us from getting out there to find geocaches all along the way. This coffee container, hidden in the wall, had us casting about quite a bit, but not nearly as much as the one tucked under this treehouse. At first, I thought the container was part of the structure, but upon closer inspection, I discovered that it is exactly what we were looking for. When I-chan's nose got to sniffing a mile a minute around this rock, I followed up on her intuition, and sure enough, found the smaller rock hidden just at the base. Way to use those senses, girl. And before we could get back on track to the pursuit of the virtuals and adventure labs between us and Portland, we had to stop off at just one travel bug hotel. This one just left us with good feelings all around. Finally, we arrive at our destination for the day, downtown Portland, the county seat of Multnomah County, with a population of well over 500,000 people. Unfortunately, after a quick trip to the stadium, we discovered that those more than 500,000 people were pretty much all out and about today. We caught sight of a couple statues and murals, but for the most part, we skipped to the edge of the city as quickly as possible. One spot that I knew for sure I was not going to pass up on was the Rocky Butte Natural Area. This nearly 20-acre park, acquired by the city in 1988, is built on top of an extinct volcanic cinder cone butte. The butte is a part of the Boring Lava Field, which is a group of over 30 cinder cones spread between Oregon and Washington. It is an area rich in both geological and human history, which we discover with an earth cache and virtual at the top. In its earliest days of settlement, it was used as the site of the Rocky Butte Jail. Following the demolition of the jail in the 1980s, much of the stone was repurposed for use in the historic Columbia River Highway. Now it is a preferred destination for people looking to get a great view of the city. To finish things off, we pursue a virtual that brings us to the world's biggest fork. As luck would have it, this giant 37-foot tall stainless steel fork stands out in front of the Fairview Food Plaza. I am far from what anybody would consider a foodie, but when I saw all of these food trucks offering a wide variety of selections, I knew we were set for a delicious dinner ahead.
All right, that is going to do it for our day here in Portland. We began our morning in McMinnville and explored our way through a virtual that brought us to the bronze statues scattered all around town, which was exactly how I wanted to explore it. We also got an opportunity to check out the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum, and that too afforded us a great opportunity to walk around and get to see the displays. From there, we headed north to Forest Grove, and opposite of the statues we got to see all morning long in McMinnville, we got to see a ton of murals while we explored Forest Grove. That gave us a great balance to the day because you know those are two things we love to seek out, statues and murals. For our time in Portland, it was actually relatively short compared to those 2 stops because traffic was a pretty big problem for us by the time we arrived, and of course parking in those downtown areas. We did what we could at the virtuals, we found some pretty good geocaches, and we're ending our day now here at the Rocky Butte Natural Area with an amazing view out over the city. I couldn't think of a better place to end our day touring through McMinnville, Forest Grove, and Portland. This also brings an end to Oregon, at least for now, for this portion of the trip. Over the last few days, we've been able to stay with Truax Outdoors, and it's been a very nice, relaxing time for Aichan and I. We were able to go out and hike a little bit for the waterfalls, take a day off. We were able to go out and go clamming and crabbing, take a day off. And today still felt like a day of rest because we knew we didn't have to be anywhere in a big hurry. Tomorrow and for the next week, we'll be taking on the state of Washington before we come back to finish off the western half of Oregon. Looking forward to the contrast Washington's going to give us to Oregon, and I'm looking forward to spring finally being here in earnest. Our time in the snow, that's a done deal. From here on out, warm, nice weather, the occasional rain, it's going to happen, but we'll still be on the road enjoying ourselves and not having to deal with the worst weather conditions we have yet. Thank you guys for joining us on this tour through McMinnville into Portland. Like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.